my name is Tom Brown, and I served in the Navy. I was an old farm boy. We were poor as poor could be. I was the youngest of 9 kids out there. I have 5 brothers, and 4 of us ended up in the military service. My oldest brother was he was teaching school. He was got drafted in the medics. He ended up in Europe. He was a specialist tech. He was over there 39 months. And he also came back, married his high school friend, but then the next brother left the farm and went to Buffalo, New York, and worked at a defense plant. And they drafted him as a private, and a week later he was in the Air Force, and I've got his log. I can tell you every base he was on in the States and later. The next brother had gone back to join him and worked at Curtis Wright or somebody, and they drafted him. In his 5th mission, he did not make it back. He was on an A-20 that went down over France. John Leonard was my brother, was a medic, and Henry V was the pilot, B-17 captain, and Jacob O was on an A-20, a gunner that went down. They locked wings over there in formation and with a full load of bombs, and it went straight in. They didn't find a dog tag, but my father wanted a body back, and after I was out of the service, they sent him one. So there's a stone up in the Lucas Cemetery with the bronze marker on it. Southwest of Lucas, about 6-7 miles out on the farm. Yeah, we had a radio. Had an old battery pack that I don't know whether it was wet or dry that you could buy. You could go either way. Oh, I don't know what led up to it, but I know that's the first news we had of it. Picked up on that. Before we ever had a radio in the house, us kids' dad had a 37 Ford that had a radio. Sometimes we'd sneak out and sit in the garage and listen to that a little bit. Well, probably before Pearl Harbor sometime. See, Mother died in '39, and it was already stirred up, and she was old enough to remember the other war. She was raised here, but German descent, you know, and Dad is English. And I remember the family saying how she worried about the son's going to end up in that, and they did. Yeah, but Pearl Harbor's when it really struck us, you know, your old battery radio and this and that, and then the brothers all disappeared, and I just followed it and done the rest of this. My dad went and got me deferment, and I went over and volunteered the next day. He didn't like me then, and he didn't like me too much after that. Drafted out of Russell and went to Kansas City and went to Farragut, Idaho. I was a senior in high school. I was drafted in December, and I didn't go till January. Went in 43 and got out in 45, I guess. 2 years and 2 months in there. I was probably glad to get there. When I was going through boot camp, you know, we'd been doing our cooking since Mother was going. I was in grade school, and the sister was getting married, their brother in New York, and started drafting them. It went along, and it got down to just me there. And then one farm boy, older than me, went to New York, but they was drafting him. He come back, and Dad got him a deferment. And when my number come up, I went. He stayed there. they bust us. And the guys was starting to get older, you know. It was later in the war. And they went to Farragut, Idaho. I just went with the flowing tide, and it's a heck of a change. Some guys got homesick, and I felt sorry for them, but I didn't. Maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe I didn't leave that much when I went. I was happy with it, or content. I'll put it that way. Yeah, I don't want to rub it too deep. Yeah. I probably weighed 150 some pounds, skinny little guy. And my grandson up there just got out of the Navy 4 years, and he could wear my suit when he was here. And he has volunteered back into the Air Force Reserve. And he was a sonar, and he chased all them pirates over there and went through the Suez Canal. That's when I went to Treasure Island and learned how to load a big gun and a little gun, and then I got on the first ship. SS Efandria. That was we were guard, and that's the one we went to WWII and made a couple trips over there. APA is an armed guard ship. It was manned by the armed guard for crew with merchant marine, and I was on 148 and 160. I was on two of them. $40, $50, yeah. Well, you could get a lot of cargo and about 1,200 people on there hauling troops. Yeah, they were good size. They were about as big as these attack transport, but they were just old. Well, some of them was old Liberty ships, Kaiser. Yeah, converted. I was a gunner on the last on those. I had an A-20 on that. Yeah. Well, I was in the gun crew on the others, but on the tanker, I had my own gun. Yeah, an 20 millimeter by the stack. And my Nebraska buddy had the one on the other side, and the starboard side. When you had general quarters, that's where you went. And the only Japs I seen, we were sitting in Guam, peacefully unloading. At 12 o'clock, here come 24 Jap planes in between Saipan and Guam to get the 29 base. They've got some lead in there, but they got some of them going over, and they turned, and by then the ground crew was putting them down, and there was a couple circled, come back. We couldn't shoot in the harbor there. You'd get somebody else. But there was one close enough I could see his goggles. I would say he was 200 yards from our ship circling. And he got partway back to the base, and I seen him go down. The tail went off of his airplane. And 20 minutes later, whoever was hunting him, I heard the guns go pop, pop, pop. So that was the end of him, I imagine. The 20 millimeter? Oh yeah, they got shell as big as a salt shaker, and they got AP noses, and some noses explode, you know. And ever so many had a tracer, and then you had some of them that was set to go off on their own, and impact, you know, shatter, and some of them were solid. Very automatic. Yeah, you had probably 10 casings in there with shells to pull out and snap on the side. Yeah, you had a loader. All of ours was just like old sights on guns with the circle. And then they came out and they had the electronic ones set up, the newer ones. And we done with these. We weren't really up front in the battle line, you know what I'm saying? We were supplying them. And now and then, I didn't see a sub, but some of the guys did. They got a lot of them. They got a lot of these old slow ships that was hauling cargo. We had just hauled a Liberty crew and went back to tie up for the evening. It was probably 10 o'clock at night. We were going up in this M-boat, this landing craft. The cable broke, rotted out of the bottom of the boat. It went down like this, and then it fell. The front cable broke. It went down and hit the water, and we hit it down in the water. Free fall, about 60 feet. The one young man, his feet went through the machine gun turret hole, broke his legs off here and smashed his head. And I was fortunate. I was right behind the wheel, and I went down like I was squatting. It stretched me out very good, and the other guy lost his ribs over the side, the way he caught it. If I'd been that much further ahead, I'd have probably got my head caught in that steering wheel. I'd probably been going too. We hit the boat in the water. The cable broke. Everybody went down. We went down and hit it. Yeah, they were lifting us up. Yep, on the top boat. They stacked two of them up next to the bridge. But yeah, and we got different boats in that ship. I run one of those boats through Panama Canal. You know, you have to take them off. Yeah, our landing barges made it too wide. Couldn't get through the canal. We had to take them off, and just so many of them on the side. And there was 4 on each side that went up even with the bridge. Then there's some single ones ahead, and where these were doubled up, they were too wide to get through there. You could go through in a day's time easily, you know. And of course, you didn't go very fast through the channel, and it's quite a sight to see. Now people pay to go on that trip. No trouble. There was 200 or 300, and we put them all in a big hole down there. Of course, we hauled troops on this ship too, and 2 or 3 guys guarded this one outlet, and they took all their food down there to them, no problem. But we marched them off in Pearl Harbor by the old Pineapple. That's when they gave them a bath and deloused them, and all their clothes went up in the cargo net, probably burned somewhere. We ran them off our ship up on a flat deck out front, and that's where they gave them a bath, stripped them one at a time, going through, and throwed your clothes over. They give them clean, dry clothes over here, just a circle. And where they went from there, I have no idea. Just one. Yeah, we'd taken troops and stuff out and hauled them back. We dumped this load of troops. We didn't really bring anything back, but then we got another load and took out. And we shuttled a load back of Jap prisoners back to Hawaii in there. On those ships, we kept moving, you know. If you take a load of oil out, somebody wants it. If you take a load of troops out, you kicked them off. Now, that one way zone I didn't tell you, but we took the second wave of Seabees into Guam. That's when I seen those Jap planes. And we kicked them off there, and the Seabees had their own food and their own bar and everything. They lived pretty high. It was all right. I could see the old pineapple factory, and I could see the Arizona over there and the Hicken field over here. And they had a tour for guys like us who was going to be stuck there, get on a bus and circle the island, come back through the pineapple fields. Very, very mild, so different, you know. And the downtown's all right. It was pretty wide open. They had open houses for anybody that wanted to give them $5. And Panama was even worse on that side of it. Yeah. Yeah, you'd walk down the street, it was kind of like going to the old-fashioned horse stables, the doors. They sitting in there knitting and want to deal with you. They'd rather have $3 than nothing, I think. Yeah. It's something. Yeah, that's kind of a hard question. I don't know. Hawaii is pretty, but I didn't find anything any nicer than I've seen on my trips in the U.S. Yeah, what's that tell you? And I've seen a lot of it. You know, from Hawaii to New Guinea and the Philippines, and like WWII, where we blowed it off, and then we had that harbor, all them ships, you know, I said they were congregating. Hell, it wasn't anything as high as this house. And then later they used it for an A-bomb test site. And now the people's all gone back, whether they're supposed to or not, but they just moved back, period, and surviving. Somewhere in the Philippines there, as high as I got. Yeah. Yep. But, oh, I don't know, you'd have to take off and run up through the Philippines from New Guinea and on around to get there. Actually, hopping with this stuff, I hit a lot of islands. Maybe you never went ashore for months at a time when you was out there. Now, we sat in WWII, that's where we tested the A-bomb after the war. We sat there 6 weeks in that harbor and gathered up ships for the invasion on down the road. And I can't even tell you which one it was. You know, they just kept bringing them in and stacking them up. And when we sailed out of there, there's probably 50 ships in that bunch. But I can't even tell you exactly where we went out and where it dissolved. I was pretty calm. I had friends and guys that done things, you wondered about them. Some pretty smart guys that go ashore and come back with tattoos and they sober up. What did I do that for? I never got that bad off. Yeah. Yep. Well, the first time I went overseas and come back, I had $100 or so, a couple months, and I went down to call home, put $10 worth of change in that little old corner booth, and couldn't get through. I swept the change off, left my billfold. They had a $100 bill in it, first one I ever had. But I didn't have the ship, but I had Dad's address. This man at Port Directors contacted my father, and he told the guy the ship I was on gangway watch taking on troops 13 days later. We was going to sail the next day, and this messenger came and told me if I'd go back to that hotel in San Francisco, I'd get that. So the OD had to get a relief, and I took 2 buddies with me and went ashore, and I walked up to one window in that hotel to ask, and this guy happened to come up to the other window. He was in Port Directors there. He wouldn't take a thing. And these 2 buddies I was buying, I had money. Then I bought my best girlfriend a bracelet and something else and sent to her. They're probably still in the safe with my daughter's stuff. $100 bill and some other money in it. He wouldn't take a thing. There was a gentleman if there ever was one. Yes, several girlfriends and brothers, you know, wherever they were at. I came home on leave that time, and I didn't go see her. She was down here, but she came home and I was off and going. And that didn't go very good. I got a Dear John. Well, I had to go back to the ship, see. I was just home on leave. The war was still on. Well, I should have gone to see her. She was a very nice lady. Yeah. Farm-raised kid. You don't think of a lot of things at that age. You have to be a little more grown up to realize some things in life. She was down here. She actually got as far as she was working at the hospital, a cadet nurse. And she started having a health problem, different things, and they never found some of it till 30 years ago at Mayo's up there. She got so nervous she couldn't write a chart and this and that, and she had an adult health problem, just numerous things, and I think 15 surgeries, everything you can think of, and she got a broken neck out here in the yard a few years before, and she had Crohn's disease before anybody knew what it was 30 years ago, and that if you're anemic, you're not up to par, and she was one of them. Yeah. Her mother, she was the only child, and they were very close, and no relatives hardly at all. She's the only one. She got a cousin in Oklahoma, but her mother fixed me a big going-away dinner for the kids in the class, you know. So that was the age I got drafted before they did. They got to finish school the next spring. Then most of them went. Her mother fixed a big dinner for me and all those kids, and then I seen her once after that, and then I come home on that leave, and I didn't come down here. Yeah. Well, I guess you just live with what you got. We both lived. She come back to Lucas. She worked for the doctor there, and she had a lot of nurses training, a lot of skills, and the gal that was our bridesmaid fixed us up with the blind date. Yeah. Went from Lucas to Plainville to a dance, Friday night party or whatever. I don't know if I figured it out, but when they stopped, I could tell where I was at. Yeah. Yeah. How'd she act? I think we were both probably elated, very happy. 65 years and 2 days at Plum. Wanda was younger, the other gal, and she's been gone quite a few years, and Bill's in the rest home in Lincoln, her husband. But my groomsmen, I buried him this last year. His wife's in Lincoln in the rest home with diabetes as bad as you could get. She has to almost have somebody looking at her every hour or two. Yeah. The good Lord acts in mysterious ways. I was on a tanker. It's right between New Guinea and the Philippines, heading for Abadan, Iran. But when they dropped the bomb, it was over, and we pulled into Australia, and the Australian shared some of their hot beer with us. All of them had a gallon jug of it. They make it. They made it. It was all in gallon plastic jugs or whatever, maybe gas cans, I don't know. And it was very freely, they were accommodating. And you won't print this, but we went ashore, and there was probably 2,000 Aussies, and 2-3 dozen of us off that ship went to having a party. And some of our guys weren't very smart. They got friendly with the girls. All these Aussies was lined up for them. Finally, their MPs come and told us you probably better go back to the ship. Yeah, and I led the pack. Yeah. Yeah, Darwin, Australia then was up in the sticks, way, way north. But we had a base there. You know, they started building that up against the Japs there. Well, the Japs landed there, I guess, one time. And yeah, so then I went on through there and around under India and up to Abadan, Iran, and got that oil. There was an English colonial spot down there. Probably a few dozen people was running the country then with the big hats and the little guns. And they gave so many of us privilege in one of their pools, you know, for an afternoon. We was in there for an hour or two, and they come around and said, time's up, whatever. And I remember the biggest old date trees. There was dates hanging all around wherever they wanted to grow, bigger than my finger. Yeah, probably had flies too, but we tried some. It was very good, yeah. We took on some fruit there and some chicken eggs, fresh eggs, which we didn't get very often. They were real small, and we took on, and the fruit was all undersized. We did get some fruit and eggs that I remember, and milk in them sealed 5-gallon cans was pretty scarce. And you set a couple of cans out for 30 of us guys. It didn't last long. I really wasn't a coffee drinker then. It took me a long time to get addicted to coffee, and I never smoked as such. None of us brothers did, and probably hadn't had a drink till we was at my high school. That's the way we was raised. We're not leaving them in very good shape. I don't know if it's politics, it's the way of the world. We don't have any friends anymore, and you can't buy friends. And I think back, like Iran over there. You know, we took advantage of their oil and them, I think, for years, and took it for granted till things blew up. And the big companies have reaped and raped all this stuff around the country. Those days are over. We got competition for every place you go, just like Canada. China wants all the oil up there, and they're getting their share. It's dog eat dog now, whether it's a big country or whether it's a little one. And or at least that's my opinion. I don't know how far off I am, but America as we know it, our kids are not going to see anything like it. It's just turned clear over. Yeah, go down on the Mexican border and take a look. Yeah, my brother lived in Texas, big farmer. Didn't have to pay taxes, state taxes down there. And we went down a few times. And you'd go across that Rio Grande, and you'd see these poor people with one shoe or no clothes hardly, and it was frosty out. If I was there, I'd want to come too, and that's the opinion everybody's got. Yep. Yep. If you can get up there, they'll take care of you. I'm glad I went. And maybe everybody don't feel that way, but for the time being, I guess the sacrifice was worth it. But if they have another World War III, we won't be the winner. Yeah, we can't fight Russia and China and Korea and a whole bunch all at one time. And all that Middle East over there. It's pretty bleak out there from my standpoint.